Order. Luke Murphy to move the motion.
I beg to move that this House has considered estate regeneration, and it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, Dr Morrison. I want to use this debate to talk about the principles of estate regeneration, its real-life impacts and the process through which it should be handled. And I will speak specifically about the regeneration currently happening in Buckskin and South Ham in my constituency. First, I want to cover what good regeneration looks like. When done right, good estate regeneration has the power to breathe new life into communities, to restore civic pride and to improve quality of life through better infrastructure such as schools, GP surgeries and green spaces. But in all cases, there is a community who live there, often close-knit and deeply rooted across generations. And these communities deserve not just respect, but full and genuine engagement, shaping and driving the future of their own areas. And that point is at the heart of the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government's 2016 guidance on estate regeneration, although, as I will go on to say, I believe that guidance needs to be refreshed and strengthened. Turning to my constituency, Buckskin and South Ham are proud, strongly knit communities where neighbours look out for each other and many have lived for decades. They were transformed as Basingstoke became a London overspill town post-war, and by 1973 over 3,250 homes had been built in South Ham alone. With new housing came new schools and the associations and religious groups that bind an area into a community, each with their own congregations, now running projects like the Community Pantry in Buckskin or the Street Pastors. The Westside Community Association, following the much mourned closure of its centre, now runs the Ridgeway Centre and the Russell Howard Pavilion, hubs known across Basingstoke. They've hosted countless birthday parties, christenings and events, including my own coffee afternoons, but they are so much more than a space for hire. They house nurseries, run clubs for the over 55s at risk of isolation, and I've seen firsthand the work that they do, like the food bank at the Ridgeway Centre, supporting people in Buckskin and South Ham when they struggle to make ends meet. Today, both areas contain over 4,600 households and well over 10,000 residents. And it is here where there is currently a regeneration proposal that was first identified for development in the 2016 local plan. Later, in 2023, Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council and Sovereign Network Group signed a memorandum of understanding to take forward, in their words, transformation plans covering community engagement, master planning, working with Hampshire County Council on transport and infrastructure, land assembly, partnerships and funding. The Housing Association Sovereign Network Group then partnered with the Hill Group to form the Sovereign Hill Partnership to deliver the scheme. Now, there's no doubt that for parts of Buckskin and South Ham, change is needed, particularly, for example, the flats on Pinkerton Road identified as a priority. I and many residents recognise that there are clearly homes and areas in need of investment. That is not in doubt. Now, the Sovereign Hill Partnership say they have held 33 events, knocked on 1,200 doors and received 1,800 survey responses as part of the process of regeneration. And I know staff at SNG and SHP, many based locally, have tried hard to engage with residents. This is not about them. But in my surgeries, at SHP's own drop-ins and on the doorstep, too many residents remain frustrated, uncertain and anxious about the future. The issues raised with me focus on three key areas: accountability and transparency over finances, uncertainty and trust linked to performance on repairs and maintenance. First, accountability and transparency over finances. Residents are frustrated with what they see as the lack of accountability in this project. The Memorandum of Understanding was updated in 2025, in the Council's own words, to reflect updated ambitions, aims, objectives and working arrangements of the partners, that being the Council and Sovereign Network Group. Although I'm not aware that any version has ever been made widely available, which itself raises questions over transparency. But it speaks to a broader issue that residents raise with me time and again. If the Council agree that the Memorandum of Understanding agreed the Memorandum of Understanding with Sovereign Network Group and are working in partnership together, but the Sovereign Hill Partnership, which is a partnership between Sovereign Network Group and a private house builder, is delivering the regeneration, who exactly should residents be holding to account? Many tell me again and again that they feel left in the dark. So does the Minister agree that accountability for such schemes should be crystal clear? I believe there needs to be clarity on who is the accountable body and greater democratic accountability. In London, regeneration projects seeking GLA funding involving over 150 dwellings or the demolition of any social homes require a resident ballot demonstrating support. In Basingstoke, while direct funding isn't involved, a partnership with the local authority exists all the same. I believe the party should look at measures to introduce greater democratic accountability, including looking at the use of residential ballots, as is increasingly normal practice. And I'd ask the Minister whether the Government would consider including resident ballots or similar mechanisms as standard in updated guidance for schemes with or without government funding. There is then the financial model for the regeneration. S&G is a not-for-profit with a social purpose, but it has, as I've said, formed a joint venture with the private house builder Hill Group to help deliver this regeneration. Many residents want greater clarity on how any surplus will be reinvested and the details of the financial model underpinning the regeneration. Given the scale of the proposals, it's essential that they are able to understand whether the benefits will be retained locally, particularly for housing, affordable housing, infrastructure and community provision. So does the Minister agree that transparency over the financial model is crucial for resident confidence, and would the Department consider updating national guidance to that effect for all regeneration schemes? Next is the significant uncertainty caused to tenants, both social and private, and to homeowners by the regeneration proposals. Following nearly 2.5 years of consultation, Sovereign Hill Partnership confirmed in February this year what it calls the priority areas for redevelopment and refurbishment, as well as areas of limited change, the latter covering around a third, roughly 1,500 homes in Buckskin and South Ham. That clarity is welcome for those residents, but it leaves nearly 3,000 households in areas of further study with no certainty at all. Residents have told me that they are unclear as to why and how these boundaries were determined, another example of a lack of clarity and transparency over decision making. So does the Minister agree it is good practice to explain such decisions in an accessible way? But on the point of uncertainty, Sovereign Hill Partnership have acknowledged that wide-scale regeneration will take multiple decades. In the meantime, thousands of my constituents have no idea whether they will be asked to move next year, the year after, in 10 years, or not at all. I've spoken to residents unsure whether to redecorate, lay patios, redo gardens and kitchens, or make other home improvements. They don't know whether they'll see any return on improvements already made, including significant accessibility works for disabled residents. And those considering selling have raised concerns about their ability to get a fair price. In short, too many people are having to put big life decisions on hold. So, don't residents 3 years on deserve clarity and a clear timeline as soon as possible? I urge SHP to give that clarity quickly, and I believe updated national guidance should set out what a realistic timeline for such schemes should look like. I would be grateful for the Minister's view. Perhaps most prominently, many residents are deeply fearful about the potential use of compulsory purchase orders. I do not believe widespread use of CPOs are justified, and their potential use only strengthens the case for residential ballots. The third area of concern revolves around a lack of trust, driven in large part by Sovereign Network Group's performance on housing repairs. Put simply, it is the largest single source of casework in my office since I was elected. I'm afraid it's an all too regular story. Complaints ignored, wait times running into months or years, missed appointments, wrong jobs or poor repairs that mean starting the whole process all over again. Recently, an elderly constituent had scaffolding on their S&G property from November 2025 until this month for a roof repair that never took place. For the entire 8 months, they were unable to open their windows, including during the recent heatwave. The work has now been cancelled, the scaffolding removed, and the problem unsolved. Likewise, a constituent whose depression and anxiety leave them almost entirely housebound reported a roof leak last November. It remained unresolved until March, despite multiple S&G visits which confirmed the property was extremely damp and infested with mould and woodlice. These are just samples, but the pattern is borne out in both tenant survey data and the judgment of the social housing regulator. In the tenant satisfaction measures headline report published last November, S&G performed worse than the national average across a range of measures, including overall satisfaction, repair service, time taken to complete repairs, home maintenance, listening to residents and complaints handling. The regulator has found weaknesses in S&G's delivery of an effective, efficient and timely repairs service, and a related failure to meet complaints handling timescales. I'm aware that improvement plans are said to be in place, but this record points to a real issue of trust. Residents tell me repeatedly that they struggle to believe that S&G can deliver a regeneration of this scale when it is struggling to deliver day-to-day repairs. And let's remind ourselves, this is one of the largest regenerations in the country. So does the Minister agree that improvement is needed on repairs and maintenance? And does she recognise that this record erodes residents' trust in S&G's ability to handle a scheme of this size? Might there be scope to update national guidance on estate regeneration so that minimum standards on repairs must be met? In conclusion, I'd also like to ask the Minister, how does the Department monitor adherence to its 2016 guidance, and what plans are there to update it and make it statutory for both local authorities and housing associations? Dr Morrison, Chair, I recognise the role that estate regeneration can play in restoring civic pride, breathing new life into communities and improving quality of life. But it must be done with communities, with them shaping and directing the change, with clear accountability, with trust between all parties and with the provision of as much certainty as possible. And I will continue to fight for that for the residents of Buckskin and South Ham for as long as is needed, and I look forward to the Minister's response.
The question is, this House has considered estate regeneration. Andrew Cooper.
Under your chairmanship, Dr Morrison, I start by congratulating my honourable friend for Basingstoke on securing this debate. I want to speak about the importance of housing-led regeneration. I think that done well, it transforms lives, it rebuilds communities, unlocks economic growth and creates places where people want to live, work and raise families. Yet for many communities across the north, that aspiration remains out of reach. Too many families live in ageing homes that are expensive to maintain, difficult to modernise and increasingly unfit for today's needs. In many neighbourhoods, outdated layouts and ageing infrastructure no longer meet the needs of the communities they serve. Without significant intervention, 100,000 social homes could be lost over the coming decade, further reducing the supply of affordable housing. It's against this backdrop that the interim findings of the Renew inquiry are so important, and I declare my interest as chairing the Westminster Group for the inquiry. Led by the Northern Housing Consortium, the inquiry highlights the vital role regeneration can play in addressing housing needs, supporting economic development and strengthening communities across the north of England. The report found that more than 500,000 good quality homes could potentially be unlocked through regeneration and renewal programmes, demonstrating the scale of the opportunity before us. The Renew report highlights the transformative impact regeneration can have on people and places. Beyond increasing housing supply, it offers an opportunity to create healthier, more sustainable communities, reduce energy costs for residents and improve the overall quality of life in neighbourhoods that have experienced years of underinvestment. Importantly, regeneration delivers benefits that extend far beyond housing alone. Investment in homes can help attract investment into infrastructure, into town centres and local services. It creates jobs, supports skills development and gives communities greater confidence in their future. The impact, therefore, reaches well beyond the development site itself, generating wider social value and helping to create vibrant, sustainable places. However, successful regeneration cannot simply be something that is done to communities. It must be delivered with communities. Residents should be at the heart of regeneration plans, helping to shape the future of the places they call home. A good example of this can be found in the Gleedless Valley Regeneration Project in Sheffield. Resident involvement has shaped the vision for the valley to include commercial and community space, improved parks, paths and jobs, and training for local residents. Lara Joyce from the Gleedless Valley Tenants and Residents Association described the process as making hope feel safe again. And I think this clearly demonstrates the importance of building trust with residents and ensuring local voices are heard throughout the process. What is particularly encouraging is the growing recognition of that the success of regeneration should not be measured solely by the number of homes delivered. Its value can also be seen in a stronger local economy, improved well-being and more resilient community. The challenge now, though, is to turn that ambition into delivery. If we get regeneration right, we will not simply build more homes, we'll rebuild neighbourhoods, revitalise businesses and restore pride in communities. And that is why housing-led regeneration matters, and it's why it deserves our continued support. Thank you.
And a big thank you to the Honourable Gentleman for Basingstoke for highlighting this issue. I think something that many of us can be guilty of is forgetting that a house is not just a a unit or a spreadsheet. It is the anchor of a family's life, and I think I see it that way, and I believe others, I think the Honourable Gentleman sees it that way as well. So when we look at our historic post-war social housing estates across Northern Ireland, we're looking at areas that possess an incredible, undeniable community spirit, but are too often being choked by generational underinvestment, outdated design, and sometimes, unfortunately, structural neglect. I'm obviously, as always, Mr. Chairman, give a Northern Ireland perspective to this here to support the Honourable Gentleman and his challenge and his focus and what he wants to achieve, because what the Honourable Gentleman wants is what I want as well. And nice to see the Minister in place again, becoming quite a regular here in Westminster Hall, so you are. We look forward to your contribution. I stand today here to speak up for the thousands of families living in social housing across my constituency of Strangford. These estates were built decades ago with the best of intentions, but time, by its very nature, has taken its toll. We're dealing with ageing housing stock that suffers from chronic dampness, from poor insulation, completely outdated sometimes heating systems as well. In an era when energy prices remain painfully high, it is a tragedy that our lowest income families are living in the hardest to heat homes, forced to choose between heating their homes or their front rooms even, or feeding their children. But considered estate regeneration is about so much more than just putting a new lick of paint on a building or replacing a roof or putting insulation in. It's about a holistic blueprint for community renewal. And the Honourable Gentleman underlined that very much in his contribution, and I thank him for that, because it's a community drive I want to focus on as well. It means looking at the layout of our estates to eradicate the dark, poorly lit alleys that breed antisocial behaviour. It means investing in community infrastructure, the playgrounds where children can play safely, the community hubs where our elderly residents can find a reprieve from chronic loneliness, and the green spaces that support mental well-being, social interaction as well. So true regeneration must be considered, I believe, Mr. Chairman. And by that I mean it must be done with the community, not to the community. So our local communities must be the co-architects of their own future. Again, the Honourable Gentleman in his introduction outlined that incredibly well. We must empower local tenant associations and community groups to lead the design process. It's their project, it's their focus, and if you draw them into that, then you make a community and you make a family atmosphere and you bring people together, and I think that's what I would love to see as the Honourable Gentleman moves forward. So if you want to know how to fix a troubled estate, I say this very respectfully, just ask the grandmother who has lived in that street for some 40 years. She knows exactly where the problems are, and she knows exactly what the neighbourhood needs to thrive. And her love for that estate, and the fact that she stayed there for 40 years of her life, will be a focus, I believe, or should be a focus, I believe, for all and for the future. While housing policy in the Northern Ireland Executive are devolved matters managed by the Minister for Communities of Stormont, the fiscal reality is that our devolved administration cannot deliver the scale of transformation needed on its own, and that's why the burning consequence on what government gives for the Northern Ireland Assembly to dish out. The housing sector faces a massive multi-billion-pound maintenance and investment deficit over the next decade just to bring its current stock up to a decent standard. So we need, I believe, a joined-up UK-wide approach to funding capital infrastructure. UK governments levelling up and building frameworks must ensure that Northern Ireland receives its fair, proportionate share of macro investment, specifically earmarked for social housing regeneration. What a subject! It means a lot to me. I've always, when I first got elected to the council many years back in 1985, my issue was the social bread and butter issues. It was about housing, and still one of the biggest issues that I get in my constituency office by mail bag every week. So the day this debate means a lot to me. I congratulate the Honourable Gentleman for Basingstoke for bringing it forward. Look very much forward to what the Minister can do to encourage us, and more importantly, to encourage the Honourable Gentleman.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I thank the member for Basingstoke for bringing this debate and giving me a chance to talk about the Alton estate in Roehampton in my constituency. It's also a pleasure, as always, to follow on from the member for Strangford, who always brings wisdom and flavour of Northern Ireland to every debate, which I fully appreciate. The Alton estate in Roehampton, in my constituency, is home to over 13,000 people. It's one of the largest housing estates in the country, and it was built in 1954. It's a very beautiful area. It's right next to Richmond Park. It's got some listed stilt blocks designed by Corbusier, and very much a beautiful estate and a fantastic community. And I'm so proud to be the MP for Roehampton. But it's been run down for too long, this estate. It's an area of high deprivation. It's an area of high health inequalities from one side of my Putney constituency to the other. In the Alton, there's a 10-year life expectancy difference, and it suffers from poor transport links. This uncertainty was this failure of this estate was recognised in 2010 by the then Conservative Council of Wandsworth, who said, yes, we need to do some regeneration and we will look into this. So since 2010, the regeneration of the Alton estate has been discussed and as yet has not been delivered to the people of the Alton. There was a very unpopular plan that was developed by the Conservative Council, but widely not liked. The regeneration, having a regeneration, very much wanted, but not this plan. The developer pulled out of that during COVID, pulled out from all the regenerations that it was doing in London, which left the Labour Council, when it came in 2022, to look again at the regeneration. They became the developer, so the council became the developer, and I think that's really key to the success of this plan so far. They employed the HTA Architecture and Design company, which did a community co-design, really stripped it back, talked to people, and have got a really good plan that the community really like. This plan has got a new library, a new dedicated youth centre. I was a bit obsessed by that part, a dedicated youth centre, because the strip back of our youth clubs in that regeneration and that whole estate has been dreadful. A new community centre, a shopping parade with shops, and I spoke to Lidl only this week, but with shops that will have affordable fruit and vegetables, 2 GP surgeries able to, with the space to do preventative healthcare, really building in healthy living into the regeneration, a new police hub, a new family hub, a nursery, and to demolish 177 of the houses which are really substandard now and have been left to run down, but build 650 new homes. So 473 new homes, with priority being given to Alton residents for the homes that they will see being built. The largest regeneration ballot ever in this country was held last October, and the people on the Alton estate voted by 82% for this plan. It's an overwhelming majority, a real yes vote to the plan. This yes vote unlocked an additional £60 million of funding from the Mayor of London. I'm very disappointed that the Conservative opposition then campaigned against the Alton renewal plan. Now, a couple of months ago, we had the local elections, and the Conservatives now run Wandsworth Council. It was by 28 councillors to 29, so a very small margin. And I really hope that the new council will understand how important this regeneration is to the people of the Alton and will go ahead with the plan. They won't do a whole new round of consultation. They won't do lots of cutbacks or reduced amount to this regeneration, and they will keep the amount of social housing in the plan. The GLA funding per unit for social housing is £220,000 per unit, but the GLA funding is £70,000 per unit for shared ownership. So it really makes sense for the new Conservative administration to carry on with the high levels of social housing in the regeneration plan. I recently met with the new Cabinet Member for Housing at Wandsworth Council, and I made very clear the residents' very strong view that the full plan is needed. He hasn't said he's going to cut it back, but I just am very worried that he might. So I hope that the Minister will lend full support to the Alton Renewal Project. To do anything less than the full plan will be to let down the residents on the Alton estate. They have waited for so long. And I'd like to end by paying tribute to the Our Roehampton organisation. Our Roehampton provide an amazing support, bringing together brilliant people across the estate to really bring about community, social cohesion to the estate. To do anything else than fully go ahead with the plan would be stopping significant growth and opportunity for residents. This plan will provide a safer, a healthy, revitalised Alton that everyone can be really proud of, and hope the Minister will be giving her full support to this plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr Wilson. It is a pleasure to speak under your chairmanship. Estate regeneration must be about more than replacing bricks and mortar. We must restore confidence, strengthen communities, and give residents pride in place in what they call their home. In Dunscroft, in my constituency, local people want to see sustained investment in their estates and their neighbourhoods, not just one-off quick fixes that quickly then degrade. They want better quality housing, safer streets, improved green spaces, well-maintained public areas, and community facilities that bring people together. Residents have told me at local positive action groups, these are groups that are resident-led, where they action local improvements that they believe will make a change, that living in a place where they see reminders of neglect, that has a real impact on their mental health, their sense of pride, on their local identity, on the day-to-day lived experience of everyone who calls it home. I want to be clear here, local people are still doing amazing things in those areas. I recently met with the Dunscroft and Friends Community Group at the Dunscroft Warriors Junior Football Team's annual gala. They're all doing great work in really difficult circumstances, but they do need more support. They have the ideas, they have the know-how, they know their area, they just need a little bit more help from government. Residents know where that investment is most urgently needed, so regeneration must be shaped by them, not imposed upon them. Pride in Place funding gives councils and communities the resources to tackle long-standing problems and deliver improvements that people can see in their everyday lives. That means repairing those neglected spaces, supporting the local shops and the services, improving routes through the community, and creating places where children and families feel safe and welcome. However, short-term or piecemeal funding will not be enough. Communities such as Dunscroft need a long-term commitment and a fair opportunity to benefit from national regeneration programmes. These places aren't looking for continuous handouts, but just a hand up to get back on their feet. Moreover, they do want to do that together, they want to do that as a team, and for me that's what Pride in Place is all about. So I do urge the government, and I ask the Minister to consider providing a little bit more Pride in Place funding in the future, to work directly with the residents and to ensure that Dunscroft receives investment it deserves. Regeneration should leave people not only with better homes and public spaces, but with renewed confidence in the future of their community and the much needed hope that we all need in our lives.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison, and it's a pleasure to serve the committee with you in the chair. And I congratulate the honourable member for Basingstoke for securing this debate. And his call for minimum repair standards seems a very reasonable call, and I'm happy to echo that here today. And I was also pleased to hear the honourable member for Strangford identifying who is a regular attender in this chamber. I'm tempted to say it takes one to know one, Dr. Morrison, but I'm sure we will see the honourable member again, and it's always a pleasure to have him with us in the debate. And clearly it's a shame that the honourable member's constituents don't feel they've been fully consulted as they should have done in the regeneration project he mentioned. Because regeneration, when it's done with genuine community involvement, can change lives in some of the best ways possible. Community involvement, consent and consultation is a fundamental necessity if that kind of positive and transformative outcome is going to be achieved. Regeneration is one of the best tools we have to help solve the housing crisis, allowing us to build new homes we desperately need, and crucially new social homes, and on brownfield sites, saving precious green fields from development, and allowing residents to exchange some of the coldest, leakiest housing stock in Europe for better homes that are actually affordable to run, while adding the kind of infrastructure that the honourable gentleman referred to, like GP surgeries, school places and play parks of the kind that some estates built 60 years ago often never had. There are many Liberal Democrat councils who are showing the way to do this. My Somerset councillor colleagues like Federica Smith-Roberts, Tom Deacon and Lee Baker and North Taunton have led the way on the regeneration of that North Taunton estate. 162 defective prefabricated concrete Woolaway homes unfit for the 21st century are being demolished and replaced with 229 council homes for affordable rent, so 67 more than we had before. The scheme was built around a resident design group from the outset, not token consultations or consultation after the drawings are finished. Local community champions like Leslie Council, who has done amazing work at the Prizewood Community Centre, helped to lead that involvement and deserve to be credited for a lot of the work. Existing tenants were rehoused during the works, guaranteeing them a right to return. Another example in Kingston upon Thames, in the constituency of my right honourable friend, constituency of the Cambridge Road estate, where the Liberal Democrat Council insisted upon subjecting the proposed regeneration scheme to the ballot of the kind the honourable gentleman referred to. Those involved worked hard with local residents, and the proposal received overwhelming support, resulting in 2,100 new homes, 871 new council houses, 218 more than were there on the site before. These are not marginal examples. They are proof that the choice is not between either going ahead with regeneration and getting community consent. With leadership and real involvement, communities can and do vote for more housing, not less. That's the ambition the Liberal Democrats want to see matched nationally. And we go further. We want to see infrastructure first in those developments so that regeneration comes with those GP surgeries, transport, drainage capacity, the extra density demands rather than as an afterthought. No doctors, no development, as we have said. We'd also get serious about the housing that already exists but sits empty. There are more than 359 homes across the country that have been empty for 6 months or longer. Addressing that would ease the pressure to drive up to unsustainable densities on other parts of towns and communities, and it will relieve pressure, again, on greenfield sites. The same principle applies to our high streets. Liberal Democrats want to see a properly funded high street strategy, one that genuinely brings empty units back into use as accommodation and housing above shops, strengthens town centre first in the town centre first principle, and supports those property owners who want to do those conversions. And we would deliver on our 10-year emergency home upgrade programme, starting with free insulation and heat pumps for low-income households, so regeneration is not the only route to a warm home. We welcome that the government has made housing a priority. We have read that the new Prime Minister will want to increase the number of council and social rent homes being built. Does the Minister believe that the new Prime Minister will match the Lib Dem ambition to reach 150,000 new social rent homes per year? I'm sure we'd all be interested. To conclude, Dr Morrison, our asks of the Minister are an infrastructure-first requirement, so regeneration schemes are properly funded to deliver the GP surgeries, schools and transport links that increased density require, a national target for 150,000 social rent homes per year rather than a market-led approach that we have at the moment, delivery of a 10-year emergency home upgrade programme, starting with free installation and heat pumps for low-income households, and regeneration that should never be something done to a community. It is done with and by the community. Thank you, Dr Morrison.
Thank you, Dr Morrison. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship and to take part in this debate about estate regeneration. And I find myself in agreement with much of what I've heard so far today. So I would like to thank the honourable gentleman, the member for Basingstoke, for securing this important debate and for his opening speech about an estate regeneration scheme in his constituency. I thought he made a strong argument. I'd also like to thank the speakers so far today, the honourable members for Putney, Mid Cheshire, Doncaster East and the Isle of Axholme, Taunton and Wellington and Strangford. I also, somewhat belatedly, would like to congratulate the Honourable Lady, the Minister, on her promotion and welcome her to her place. It's the first time I've had the pleasure of facing her in debate. Dr Morrison, estate regeneration is an important process in delivering the right homes for local people, and this is true across all main types of estate regeneration, be that refurbishments, where homes are retrofitted to bring them into line with regulation and make them safe, viable and modern places for people and families to call their home, infill developments, where new homes are built on previously developed or undeveloped land to increase density and provide housing for the local population, or full redevelopments and regeneration, meaning that entire estates see wholesale demolition and reconstruction to provide fresh stock for residents and new buyers or tenants. And that is why estate regeneration alongside new housing delivery should be thought about seriously by the government. Across the country there are thousands of homes with untapped potential for renewal, regeneration and improvement, and alongside the vast and preponderant unrealised space for ripe for increased density and new homes, and this is especially true, and I'm sure the Minister will agree, here in London. It's something I know all too well as a former Conservative leader on the London Assembly and as a Member of Parliament for a constituency in Greater London. With a population in London that has never been higher and is growing, London is bursting with demand for housing. Greater London has been set a target of 88,000 homes a year by the government. Now that means, on average, the equivalent to one London borough's worth of homes being delivered every 16 months. But so far, the Mayor of London and his supporters in MHCLG are falling very far short of this. According to GLA figures in 2024-2025, just 7,124 social rent and London affordable rent homes were completed. Well, of course, this doesn't even come close to helping the 366,000 Londoners on the social housing waiting list. The need for new homes is stark and it is urgent, because the government's own figures show that across England, the number of new net additional dwellings was just 208,600 in Labour's first year in power. This is a 6% drop from 2023-2024 during the last Conservative government's final year in office. 190,600 new homes were built, a fall of 8,000, around 4% on 23-24, which suggests that the government is on course to fall well short of their self-imposed target of 1.5 million homes by the end of this Parliament. Indeed, the government is on track to build something like 400,000 fewer homes than it promised at the election. By contrast, from 2013 to 2023, under the last government, the nation saw the highest sustained level of new home formations in the past 50 years, surpassing even the levels of the 1970s. And between 2010 and 2024, 2.5 million new homes and 750,000 affordable homes were delivered. But this is where estate regeneration, the focus of this debate, can play a key role, particularly in London, but not just in London. According to London Council's estate regeneration report from November 2025, London's boroughs have the potential to develop over 10,000 new homes in a city that is starved of supply but overflowing with demand. And this isn't true just inside the M25 but across the country, as speakers across the House have noted in today's debate. Estate regeneration is not a silver bullet, but it can certainly make a significant contribution. And that is something the previous government understood. As the mover of today's motion noted, they had a national strategy in 2016 to give this issue the national attention that it deserves. It's also understood that the role of estate generation can play in taking the pressure off our Greenbelt, as the Liberal Democrat spokesman noted in his speech, by prioritising the regeneration of brownfield sites. Everyone has heard the lip service the government pays to brownfield development, but MHCLG's actions since July 2024 have shown a very clear desire to build all over the Greenbelt. Instead of the undesirable urban sprawl encouraged by this government, Conservatives believe in building where homes are wanted and needed, and where homes can be supported by existing necessary infrastructure, such as in our cities and in urban areas. Estate regeneration fits this rationale perfectly, as highlighted by the architect Chloe Phelps, director of Grounded, who has said, and I quote, "Estate regeneration schemes are going to be critical to delivering new homes on brownfield sites over the next few years, with estimates that there is capacity for more than 120,000 on small sites in London alone." The Minister's honourable friend, the member for Greenwich and Woolwich, as Planning and Housing Minister, is well versed in all aspects of his brief. But his department's social housing bill suggests otherwise. Not only does the bill fail to recognise the importance of delivering social homes on brownfield sites, but estate regeneration remains largely absent from the bill. This is because the bill is dressed up as a law to support social housing, but is in fact more about destroying right to buy than increasing the supply of social housing. If the government was serious about social housing, they would have actually built some. But in 20% of council areas across England, not one social home was built under this government over the last 2 years.
I'm grateful to the Shadow Minister for giving way. Does he know that since the Wandsworth Council became a Conservative council, the only decisions being made by that council have been to cancel all of the housing development on one estate and partially cancel it on another estate? And now we're wondering what's going to happen with the Alton. So does he support actually building more houses and keeping them as social housing, especially on the Alton estate?
I'm not going to comment on that particular scheme because I'm not across the detail of it, but of course I do support building more houses. And we need more houses of all tenures. This is something we have said repeatedly in here and also in the Chamber as well. So once again, Dr Murison, Whitehall has the wrong priorities: targeting our Greenbelt, the ideological attack on right to buy, and the failing New Towns programme. These come before the right priorities, such as estate regeneration. Replacement rates are too low for social homes and too many councils have been unable to deliver, so the government will be wise to generate an appetite for regeneration to feed the desperate hunger for new social housing. But so far, to date, they have not done that. The Conservative opposition believes in building more homes, believes in prioritising brownfield land and believes in making the dream of home ownership a reality, believes in aspiration and critically believes in regeneration. Only through these priorities and by acting on these beliefs can we provide the much needed, much demanded and much wanted decent and modern social homes that people deserve. I hope the Honourable Lady the Minister will address these concerns in full and give the confidence to our constituents on the waiting list, to developers in a position to build and to local leaders that the nation needs to see estate regeneration made real.
Thank you very much, Dr Morrison. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and can I thank the Shadow Minister for his generous words. Can I also thank the member for Stramford. He and I are competing for appearance in this chamber this week. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have a long way to go. Can I thank the member for Basingstoke for bringing this important debate today, and for all members for their contribution. They have each provided an important perspective on the challenges of estate renewal and generally to the need to build homes in the way that works for communities. As the Right Honourable Member for Basingstoke spoke so powerfully about the difference between good regeneration and poor examples in his constituency, and the government recognises that good estate regen is critical to delivering our housing target and providing decent homes for everybody to live in. And the truth is that there are many reasons why estate regeneration might be the best thing for existing tenants or for a local area. In some cases, years of neglect from a Conservative government that has failed to invest in existing estates, that mandated council rent reductions, which meant even less for HRA accounts, has left many estates in dire need of regeneration. I know this too well, having led a local authority that felt the burden of the pressures of a HRA account. Social housing was the tenure most affected by damp and mould issues, and my right honourable friends spoke correctly to highlight the impact that it's having on many of his constituents, and I know that's the case for many other members who make cases on the same issue. An ageing housing stock not only impacts life chances, it costs the taxpayer more in the long term, because we see disrepair having a bigger impact on communities, but also the stock itself. With this context, it might make more sense for an entire estate to be regenerated than a sticking plaster approach, particularly when some buildings reach the end of their life. In other cases, estates are the best place to build more affordable homes, particularly in our towns and cities where there may be fewer development sites available, but more social infrastructure in local areas. The people often forgotten in housing debates are the 1 million families on council housing waiting lists and the thousands of people trapped in temporary accommodation. I know that my right honourable friend's local authority, in his area, there are something like 4,000 on the housing register, a similar figure in my own borough of Barking and Dagenham. Everyone deserves a decent home, a safe home, in a clean neighbourhood with decent social infrastructure. And may I pay tribute to the Right Honourable Member for Putney, who so passionately and accurately spoke about the importance of those facilities that make a community, whether it's a youth centre and so needed GPs. I pay tribute to her long-standing campaign, which reflects the need to build neighbourhoods with homes that are more than just the buildings that home people. It's my view the simple, most powerful thing that we can do to lift people out of poverty and improve life chances is to provide more decent homes in this country. And the first and foremost thing is to recognise the supply of homes is a foundation to everything. Indeed, we will only address the housing crisis by building more homes, period. And I listened to the Shadow Minister with great interest, and the important points he made about house building and getting on with it. I have to say, having been a council leader in London and a Labour Member of Parliament in London now, it is a great shame that Conservative councils, Lib Dem councils, councillors, MPs frequently object to house building. And I have to say also, yes, of course, brownfield sites are part of the solution. They're a really important part of the solution. But the idea that we can meet housing need in London or in the rest of the country only using brownfield sites or doing infill on existing estates is, I'm afraid, misleading. That doesn't just mean that we only look at one aspect of house building. It is a complicated picture, which I recognise, but it takes a multitude of approaches to make sure that regeneration delivers the number of homes we need to the decent home standard. But I also know that regeneration must be delivered in partnership with communities. Good regeneration puts those communities in the driving seat. That doesn't mean just being transparent with decision making. It means presenting and allowing real say for those to shape those who live in the community, the proposals that are in front of them. Decisions like property size, building height, materials, amenities, and timelines for delivery, has already been mentioned, are really important aspects of getting buy-in from a community. And the approach isn't new. Good developers, of which there are many, do this anyway. And the regulatory standards are clear. Registered providers must communicate with, provide information to, and take the views of tenants into account, all in decision making. This extends to providers undertaking estate regeneration. On timelines, it would be difficult to set out, in truth, what realistic timelines would look like, because each estate regeneration is different and unique, with different sizes, ambition. Good engagement with existing residents may then further change those ambitions. Timelines for estate renewal is also highly dependent on viability, phasing, planning permission conditions, ground and infrastructure prep. But I accept the point that not knowing when your home might be knocked down creates huge anxiety for families that live on that estate. Indeed, I know that there are examples in my own constituency of families who have been told they are earmarked for estate renewal and can see their communities being hollowed out, and yet they themselves don't know when they might need to move on. Timelines for estate renewal, as I say, is complicated, but it is important that that engagement takes into account the instability that estate renewal provides. My honourable friend asked a valid question about whether the process for decision-making should be through a ballot. I led a local authority who had a ballot for an area. To say the least, it is hard work, but it is perhaps one of the most important things you can do in order to be able to secure the buy-in from a community. But to say that ballots in themselves is what secured that, I think, is a disservice really to the engagement of what that ballot provided. Ballots in and of themselves do not solve trust issues amongst residents. They can force developers to have meaningful engagement, which is what they should be doing anyway, but it doesn't mean that it will get the outcome that we want. And where providers fall short, there is usually a complaints process and an ombudsman that can follow. But in addition, the government has also committed to introducing social tenant access to information requirements from this October. It will make it mandatory for providers to give information about property management and response to information requests. I'm happy to give way.
I think for giving way, just briefly on that point on residential ballots, I completely accept the point that she's making, that in and of themselves they are not the answer, but they do drive the behaviour that helps build that community consent. I just wonder whether she would extend a request to the Housing Minister for him to meet with me about this issue following this debate.
Of course I will, and I think the Department would welcome any conversation about that. But I just have to emphasise that the engagement process requires more than just a tick box of yes and no. And actually, the best regeneration and estate renewal programmes demonstrate it's a long-term commitment to engagement with residents, a genuine commitment for them to be able to shape the outcomes, and also, if I might add, a political bravery from leadership locally that says we have to have some homes built, and therefore let's go on this journey together. Too often we see examples where it just becomes easy to say no to everything, and we end up with the housing crisis that we face across the country. On the point on transparency and accountability, good question was asked about the governance of regeneration schemes, and I agree with members who've raised the point that it's vital that estate regeneration schemes, particularly when they involve public land or public money, demonstrate that transparency. Estate renewal can actually be quite easy if you sell off all the land. Particularly in a place like London, you'll find you're not short of interest from developers. Estate regeneration is much harder if you are committed to delivering affordable homes and committed to making sure that you have amenities that make that estate renewal a community. And estate regeneration, the Estate Regeneration National Strategy Guidance helps set out a framework from government to achieve what is needed. The regulator of social housing inspects works to improve standards, and the Ombudsman provides routes for readiness, more effective statutory routes for better estate regeneration. So some important steps have been taken by the government, but I recognise that is a longer-term commitment and a culture change, if you like, through our support for local authorities to develop estate regeneration in a way that works for communities. Can I also address the direct point about lack of trust on repair issues? Because too often you will have two camps of people that talk about housing as though repairs for an estate is a separate task from long-term estate renewal. And the truth is, estate regeneration for existing areas is a project that may last decades. And a 5-year period is a relatively short period of time in terms of estate renewal, but 5 years is a period of time a young person will be in secondary school. And if throughout that time they've got a leak in the roof, or they've got damp, or there's antisocial behaviour, or there is some basic things that just need to be fixed on their estate, it will have an impact not only on their life chances, but the trust and confidence that they need that those who are responsible for fixing the basics in their home can also deliver homes for the future where they may live for the rest of their lives. So I take the point very, very seriously, and I welcome any further discussions that members might want to have with ministers and MHCLG so that we can further strengthen the guidance that's already in place and also seek to make any steps that we need to take so that we can see not the erosion of trust and confidence, but a building of trust and confidence so that there can be an endorsement of further house building in this country. Like I say, Chair, I think estate renewal programmes are possibly the most difficult thing that local authorities can do. And I recognise important points made about placemaking. And I really do welcome local authorities being placemakers, and in many examples where they've decided to be the master developer, it is a tough task for a local authority, but with support from a government, from MHCLG, I think I would welcome more examples of local authorities acting as a master developer, perhaps also a developer. But the master developer bit, in my view, is what helps build that trusted relationship between communities so that you can have the buy-in to see long-term housing delivery. I think estate renewal, more than any housing delivery, requires, as I say, brave political leadership, a real long-term commitment to engaging and shaping. It requires money, and so I'm proud that the government has already allocated almost £40 billion for affordable homes. But none of that matters if you don't have the buy-in from the local community. So I genuinely really welcome the debate Right Honourable Member has secured. I pay tribute to the passionate campaign and advocacy that he presents on behalf of his constituents. I know that I recognise the amount of casework he receives that relates to repairs and maintenance, alongside his commitment to see more homes built for his area, because he knows, like I do, that home building is what will change life chances for people in this country. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Minister for her response. I particularly wanted to recognise that the point she made around repairs and maintenance, and welcome her passing on my request to the Minister, and also what she said about residential ballots. And so, I fully agree. It is just but one part of the process, albeit I think it would be a useful mechanism to drive that. Some of that engagement that she was referring to. Can also just thank other members for their contributions. The member for Mid Cheshire for his point around the value of estate regeneration, both to economy and pride in place. Something that I fully recognise, but the community needs to be at the heart of any proposals. The member, the honourable member for Strangford, who made the point around communities not just being a number on a spreadsheet, and the need for a holistic blueprint for renewal, and also I think we all agree with that need for a UK-wide approach on this point. The member for Putney, I heard her pride in the Alton estate. I share the pride in representing Buckskin and South Ham, and she mentioned a number of key things actually which are really important locally in Basingstoke as well, in Buckskin and South Ham, around the need for a permanent community centre as part of the regen, the co-design, and she also mentioned how the way in which the residential ballot had worked as well. So I was very interested to hear that. The member for Doncaster East and Isle of Axholme, and the powerful argument he made around pride in place, but also resident action groups, which is something I'd like to speak to him further about. Appreciated the response to the shadow spokesperson for the Liberal Democrats, the member for Taunton and Wellington, and his agreement on the point around minimum standards, but also agreement on the need for community consent and what that can help deliver, and thanking the Shadow Minister for the Conservatives, the member for Orpington, on what he said about my speech, although I would say that I'm old enough to remember when the Conservative government cut the budget for affordable housing by 2/3, introduced the unaffordable rent model and decimated the building of social housing as well, so I might gently disagree with some of the points he made about the Conservative government's record on housing. But I wanted to put on record my thanks to the Minister for her response, all members for contribution, but also recognising the ongoing conversations I'm having with SNG, the Sovereign Hill Partnership and the local council, and I want to work constructively with them. I recognise the need for investment and more homes, and many residents recognise that as well, but it has to be done in the right way with the accountability that's needed to build that trust as well, and I look forward to, and I will always be a strong voice for the residents and my constituents in Buckskin and South Ham. And finally, I'd like to thank the Chair for presiding over the debate. Thank you.